Hey guys,
Hey
welcome
everybody.
back. And the foul, James Rowe, Kevin Davis, and it's been a couple of weeks now, 2 weeks. A lot of things had to be done before we started a couple of shows. Now that the football season's over, sadly, right now it's time to talk about basketball, hockey, all that fun stuff, and baseball coming in 5 weeks.
Yeah.
So we're gonna talk about how everybody is talking about the New York Knicks and now Jeremy Lin and Linsanity and the chemistry issues between Carmelo and him and Amari and like that. But after last night's game, last night was a old-fashioned beatdown. They destroyed the Hawks. I mean, granted, the Hawks were without Joe Johnson and another player. I think it was Horford.
I don't know. I personally didn't watch the game.
It was one of them. I think it was Horford. I know Joe Johnson was out, but they're still a team that plays good defense, and I mean, without their best scorer, I guess you kind of saw that one coming.
Yeah.
But Joe Johnson's that type of player that can be either hot or cold.
And
so,
he hasn't been taking that much shots. He's actually been hesitant. He said on a real GM.
Mm-hmm.
He said that he's been hesitant about taking shots this year for some reason. He just doesn't want to seem like all the burden is on him if he's taking too much shots.
Well, listen, you signed a 5-year
old player.
Yeah, you signed a 5-year, $100 million contract. The burden has to be on you now.
Yeah.
You're the cornerstone of that franchise.
Or you're just one of those peacemakers that just signed for that big deal and you're not doing anything.
Yeah. But overall, the Knicks issue is, I don't think it's the fact that will work between Carmelo and Lin.
No, not at all.
I think it's just
my problem is, if you're D'Antoni,
mm-hmm.
why are you benching the player that got you your job back? Why are you benching Lin for Baron Davis, who's not even 100% healthy?
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's one thing I don't understand.
Well, to me, Baron Davis came back because he saw what Lin was doing,
and
he wanted somehow to keep his job. Because Mike Bibby's still sitting on the bench, and still Tony Douglas is sitting on the bench.
Yeah.
And right now, if Baron Davis never came back, now that Shumpert was hurt, who do you put into? You're going to have to put in Bibby, and you're going to have to honestly put in Tony Douglas, unless you want Lin playing 48 minutes a game.
Yeah.
And the one thing I just don't want D'Antoni to is to burn out Jeremy Lin before he really needs to come up in the clutch. Because if he comes into the playoffs exhausted, playing almost 45 minutes a game, which right now he does, unless they blow a team out or so, he's gonna drop dead. He's never played this many games before.
Yeah.
I mean, the most games he's played was in Harvard in college.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was on Golden State last year, don't get me wrong, but he didn't play as many games as he will now.
Yeah.
But, Carmelo is an isolation player. It's the way he is, But now, you can't come in here and think okay, now it's back on me. He's got to relax now, because now he's got to change his game. Not to change the game to the point where Jeremy Lin, how Jeremy Lin plays, but change his game to the fact...
he's got to change. He's got to change. Listen, No. But when he was out, that whole town got around Jeremy Lin. That whole city got around Jeremy Lin, okay? They're all feeding off of Jeremy Lin's energy. So if you bring Carmelo Anthony in there and he has a negative vibe, that's bringing a negative vibe to the whole entire team, which is making them not play good. And then everybody's making Carmelo Anthony the bad guy. See, if you're Carmelo Anthony, you want to come in there with the right mindset and be like, listen, I was out. You took over the team as the point.
Yeah.
What do I need to do to adjust to your system, to your point guard system? What do I need to do to adjust to that system? Carmelo Anthony can't be selfish now. You know, the guy's in his 9th year in the league, has made it to one conference final, and couldn't get past the first round. And now he's got in a good point guard in Jeremy Lin to get further into those playoffs. Because listen, let's be honest, the East isn't as big and bad as what we thought it is. It's just the Bulls, the Heat, and the Magic, and then that's it. The Hawks are beatable.
Not even the Magic.
The Hawks are beatable. Well,
the
Hawks
are very beatable.
The Magic are one of those teams that can get
up and down.
Yeah, they're on a run.
Ryan Anderson hit those threes.
They're on a run right now. You know, they're a good team. The Magic are
if they don't hit their threes, they don't win.
And I'm getting sick and tired of hearing that Boston is a good team, because Boston is horrible.
Horrible.
Boston is not a good team.
I'm sorry. Boston will make the playoffs.
The only one person that I like on Boston is KG. That's it.
They'll make the playoffs. They'll make it probably as the 8th or 7th seed. But, that team, unless they rebuild, that team ain't going to be good for a while. No. Rajon Rondo is good, don't get me wrong. But when you have an aging Ray Allen who is probably going to
when you got Ray
get
Allen
out of there
Paul
by
Pierce,
next
and
year,
KG,
maybe.
when you got Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, and KG on a decline as your big three, then that's when you got to start looking for the draft, and then that's when you got to start looking to get draft picks. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Get draft picks, trade up in a draft, stuff like that.
Exactly. You know? But like what I was saying with Melo was before is the way that Melo was before is that Melo, like, he has to come in here. He's gonna say what does he have to do, to make this team better. But like what people are saying is like, oh, he's got to change his game to Jeremy Lin's game. He doesn't have to necessarily change his whole game to Jeremy.
But he's got to change some.
He's got to change something. No, don't get me wrong.
He's got to change
something. But as you saw last night a little bit, him and Landry Fields were actually connecting a little bit. Him and Carmelo Anthony and Landry Fields. Like when Landry Fields didn't know what to do, he was telling him shoot it. He never used to do it. He used to be like, all right, ball.
Yeah.
I don't see him getting off picks and then calling to the ball every single time. Because he feels he doesn't have to do that now, Because Jeremy Lin is
taken off of him.
And I understand nobody likes D'Antoni. D'Antoni is not a good coach. He can never win. But you know what? Getting Mike Woodson as the assistant coach was the best thing that could have happened to him. Jeremy Lin is the best thing that could happen to him. And Jeremy Lin is a proven factor of why Raymond Felton was so successful here in New York.
Yeah.
Because this system is based off of a point guard. Whether it be steals, assists, points, everything like that. It's based off of a point guard. So you can get Steve Francis in there. And I bet you Steve Francis can even have a better career than he had. It's just the way the system works.
Look at Raymond Felton now. Raymond Felton now is
in Portland doing nothing.
He was the starter, Raymond Felton, but he got benched for Jamal Crawford. Every Knicks fan remembers Jamal Crawford.
Yeah.
But Portland's got a good team.
Yeah. And with the additions with J.R. Smith, and I think J.R. Smith is actually a great addition, because J.R. Smith, I understand the ego, I understand this, I understand that. And another thing, and I heard this the other day, George Karl needs to shut up. Because he's just taking crack after crack after crack at Carmelo Anthony. Okay? You got him off your team. You got what you wanted.
Yeah.
Now shut up and go play.
Yeah.
Now, the Nuggets haven't been that great since Gallinari went out. And Gallinari has shown you right now how good of a player he is if this team is going down. Not going down, but like not playing as good as it used to when Gallinari was in it. But I mean, until Melo can fix his game to play with a point guard, because he always played with Chauncey Billups. But Chauncey Billups doesn't have the quickness and like the toughness as like Jeremy Lin. Jeremy Lin just goes in there. Well,
Chauncey's getting old.
Well, yeah, exactly. Chauncey was getting old
now in the season.
Yeah, but he never had this type of point guard. See, to me, I don't know why. Why did Denver want Raymond Felton if they were just going to get rid of him next year?
I don't know.
Keep Chauncey. First of all, George Karl was very unhappy when they traded Chauncey Billups to the New York Knicks.
Mm-hmm.
He said he wanted to keep him here because he's from Denver and everything like that.
Yeah.
So if you didn't want to keep him, if you wanted to keep him, why would you ask Raymond Felton, who got you last year one playoff win, and right now he's in Portland, not even on the team anymore.
Yeah.
Mozgov barely plays. Wilson Chandler is in China, and Danilo Gallinari is hurt. You could say it's a Gallo trade. You could say it's the Melo trade. Right now, it's at an even slate.
Yeah.
Right now, the only thing Denver has over the Knicks is one playoff win. They didn't versus a good team, as in the Knicks versus Celtics. Celtics obviously are a better team than I forgot who Denver played last year, but they didn't win. They won one game and they got swept.
The Celtics were a better team last year in the playoffs than they are now. Let's
exactly.
Just get that right.
Yeah. But, like, we can go through the league. The Knicks can definitely climb from that 7th spot to that 5th or 4th spot. I'm not going to say the 3rd. I think the 3rd's a little bit pushing it.
Yeah, that's Magic, I think, will take
Magic
the 3rd.
will probably take the 3rd. Philadelphia is one of the most overhyped teams
Philly, I
in the
think, will
league.
drop to the 6th seed.
Yeah. Philly got off to a good start, don't get me wrong. 20-12, or like 20... Yeah, 20-12, 20-10, and then they've lost, and they've lost to the Timberwolves. They've lost to, good teams, but it shows like where they are. Like Philadelphia is a good team. They're definitely a playoff team.
Yeah.
Chicago, Miami, Philadelphia, Orlando, Indiana, Boston, the Knicks, and who's the other team in the playoffs?
Indiana.
I got Indiana. Well, there's someone else in the playoffs, but if you see those teams deserve to be there right now. Don't get me wrong. Philadelphia's good. They're not great. They're not overhyped. Everyone's like, oh, they're gonna win the Atlantic. They're gonna win the Atlantic. Right now, they got off to the best start they possibly could. I mean, only better would have been if they got over Miami or Chicago. But as the 3 through 8 seed, don't even worry about the first two because it's gonna be Chicago, Miami, or Miami, Chicago. Either way.
Yeah.
Miami and Chicago are just too good, and the only way Chicago can win a championship if Miami gets knocked out, because Chicago cannot beat Miami. Chicago cannot beat Miami because then it'll just come down to D Rose. D Rose 6'3", going against 6'9" LeBron James, and as you saw last year in the finals, Dirk Nowitzki, even though he's like 7 foot, still when he backed away had the fadeaway to get it in there. Derrick Rose doesn't have that.
Yeah.
Okay, and you saw it last year in the playoffs. The Bulls only won 1 game. I think the Bulls are a very good team. I think they can be beaten. They definitely can be beaten. Because the Heat, I think, are right now the best team in the East. Then you got Chicago. Then you got maybe Orlando, possibly Indiana, because Indiana's playing really, really well. And then you got the Knicks, and then you got the 76ers, and then you got the Celtics. But I cannot remember who is that other team. I'm going to have to look that up. Give me a minute.
Which one?
The other team that's in the playoffs.
You got the Heat, you got the Bulls, the Magic, the Hawks.
The Hawks. Yeah.
I
didn't say the Hawks. All right, yeah. So you got the Hawks in there somewhere as well.
Yeah.
But so it's going to be a good game now. Tonight's game, Miami, the Knicks. The Knicks, if they lose, what do you think if they lose by more than 10? You obviously see that the class difference is not there.
Exactly.
But if they lose by 2 or 3, do you put them that they can play with them? They may not beat them, but they can play with them.
If they lose, it all depends on how they lose. Like if they lose by 2, if they lose by 2, and then they lose like off of maybe a 3. Like say they had like a 1 point lead, like a 1 point lead, and it's the last second 3, and they make it. Then that's when you could say like, okay, they can contend. But if they were down by like 12 and Miami's sitting.
Yeah, sitting the starters and everything.
LeBron, Wade, or Bosh. They're sitting all of them, and the Knicks are down by 20, and they come back and they lose by 5. Then that's when you could be like, I don't think so. But it all depends on what happens tonight. We'll see what happens tonight. Do I think the Knicks can play with the Heat? Yeah, I think they do. I think they can.
All right, so if you had to pick one team to go into say the Knicks got to the Eastern Conference Final.
Yeah.
If you had to pick Miami or Chicago to face, who would you pick? I mean, personally, I would pick Chicago.
If you would want to,
if I want to play against,
you'd have to pick Chicago. There's no doubt about it. Because once the Heat get in there, the Heat are like that big 3 that Celtics had like 2 or 3 years ago, where it's just like they once they can find that chemistry, they're just gonna be unstoppable.
And which is showing.
Yeah.
Big, but we got a lot of things to talk about. Again, we're going to take a little break, and then we're going to talk about the questions that we put on NFL and see your responses and see if we disagree or agree with you. All right?
Yep.
We'll be right back. I have to get up because Nick decided not to be here today. But
he's got work.
Leave him alone. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, leave him alone.
It doesn't matter. I'll be right back.